Welcome back to beautiful Camelback Ranch on a gorgeous day for baseball. Let's take a look at how Joe Maddon's going to line up his Cubs today, and it's a lineup you're very familiar with. It's Schwarber leading it off with Chris Bryant, the MVP, in the 2 spot, then Anthony Rizzo, Ben Zobrist, Addison Russell, Jason Hayward, then Contreras, La Stella, and Jay rounded out. As we take a look at the defense and how they'll line up behind Derek Holland, left to right, Cabrera, Borges, and Garcia. In the infield, Frazier, Anderson, Saladino, and Abreu. Giovanni Soto gets a nod behind the plate, and Derek Holland on the hill. He's had 3 injury-plagued season, hoping for a bounce back. This is his 3rd start. If he is healthy, he's a huge addition to this rotation, but staying healthy has been the key for him. And so, without further ado, I would like to introduce for the first time this spring my partner, Ken Harrelson, fresh from Florida and ready to go.
All right, Stone Pony, thank you. And Derek Holland, first pitch to Kyle Schwarber. Taking up high for a ball. I'm with you. I love Derek Holland. I mean,
first pitch 12:05, game time temperature 89 degrees.
Yeah, I know you remember him from his Texas days. When he was healthy, he was good.
he loves to pitch inside. That's what I loved about him. He loves to pitch right-handers inside. You show me a left-hander. He has pretty good stuff and loves to pitch right-handers inside and knows how to pitch right-handers inside. I'll show you a pretty good pitcher. Derek, just 30 years old. 62 and 50 in his career. Holland, who led the American League in shutouts in 2011 with 4. And I think both of us agreed at that time when he was healthy that they had 3 good-looking pitchers down there in Texas, and we all liked Derek Holland the most.
Yeah, they were a team that thought they were building a pitching staff to go with what has always been prolific hitting.
High pop-up. Anderson making the call. Has the ball for out number 1. And here at beautiful Camelback Ranch, Glendale. 345 down the lines, 380 in the gaps, 410 straightaway center on yet. I tell you cannot beat Arizona for spring training weather.
No, this has been phenomenal. It's high skies, it's hard infields, it's very little rain, so it's very much a hitter's place to play. However, there's been some really good efforts by pitchers around this spring, and there's so many good young players. And Hawk, I know this excites you as well as it excites me. Great young players bursting on the scene. We're seeing a lot of them for the first time this spring.
Well, that's one reason I'm excited about this season. This is not a season, as we talked about in the opening. Our expectations in the first 8 years we worked together were way up here coming out of spring training. This year they're not way up there. And I think that's a good thing because the more expectations, that's why I've always thought and said that the toughest 2 teams in baseball for young players to break into are the New York Yankees and the New York Mets because of the media coverage.
Because they're expected to win every year regardless of what they have.
Exactly. So now these guys are going to be able to get out there. And what is we always talked about, the biggest killer of performance is pressure. It's tough for a youngster to break in on a contending team. This year it's going to be fun watching these youngsters. You know, as you mentioned, you said it, and that's the way it's going to be. A lot of these good young players we have are not going to go north with us. They need to get some more bats and some more innings pitched. He gone. Bryant strikes out.
I don't think he was expecting a slider on that pitch, but that's exactly what he got. Mike Cassiopo calling the pitch, and it's a good pitch. It freezes Bryant. He thought it was inside. Nicely framed by Giovanni Soto, who's back for his 2nd tour of duty. He catches the ball very well, does Giovanni.
I'm glad to see Gio back.
He's a pitcher's best friend. He handles him well.
And he is also great in that clubhouse. Yeah. Here's Rizzo. Anthony last year, 292, 32 homers, 109 driven in.
Biggest improvement he made in his game was that he can now torment left-hand pitchers. It hadn't been the case for a while, but he's taken your advice, which is get right on top of the plate, dare that pitcher to throw inside. He gets hit a lot, but if you stray, he crushes the ball.
Well, you were a breaking ball pitcher. If I was facing you, now this does not mean there's a strike. This does not mean I was going to hit you or hit home runs off you, but what it meant was if I'm standing right on top of that plate, I'm going to make you tighten it up. You can't free wheel that big curveball you had.
And there's another thing. I mean, you changed my release point.
That's what I'm talking about. You got to tighten it up.
You
cannot freewheel it.
Change your release point, make it a little more difficult.
Popped up, so a nice, aggressive inning by Derek Holland. And after half inning of play, it's the Cubs nothing, and the good guys coming to bat.
Let's take a look at how Ricky Renteria is going to line up our Sox for the game this afternoon. Peter Borges, an insurance policy that's paying dividends, playing center field. Then it's Melky, Jose, Todd, Abisail Garcia, and it rounds out with Anderson, Saladino, Soto, and Hayes as the DH hitting ninth. The defense and how they'll line up. Behind Dwayne Underwood, it's Jay, Hayward, and Schwarber in the outfield with Bryant, Russell, Zobrist, and Rizzo in the infield. Wilson Contreras gets a nod behind the plate. Dwayne Underwood on the hill. He's got a big fastball. The other three pitches, and he's a four-pitch pitcher, they're not great. He's trying to open some eyes here in spring training, and there you look at the numbers.
Usually when a youngster's got that big fastball like he does have, and he's got three other pitches, he ought to get rid of at least one of those.
There's no doubt. I mean, yeah, pick one, pick the slider or the curve, and then disband the others that go with the fastball. The biggest problem, you know it, is the guy tries to establish 4 or 5 pitches in the first inning. He falls behind you. Now he's got to throw you a fastball, and then the pitcher's got some trouble.
We had a guy like that. Led the league in strikeouts one year. And a terrific guy, terrific teammate, Javi Lopez. Oh, excuse me, Vasquez.
Yeah. Oh, Javi Vasquez was a
He had the
pitcher.
best stuff for a guy who was Borges. And right now, let's check out our first picks to click.
First picks to click of the spring.
There. Jumanji, our director of recruitment, with Tyler. See, he's going with Melky Cabrera. David Novak and all the great folks at Poogie Hyundai and Downers Grove, and J.J. Shearer and all the great folks at Ditka's. And we're going to go with Abisail Garcia.
Well, it's unbelievable. A lot of things change, but the front runner, I mean, Avi, at 424, you pick him right out of the chute.
You know what? You can get in a lot of trouble for saying something like that. Here's Cabrera. Yeah, Javi Vasquez. He had 5 pitches, and he wanted to show every one of them to each hitter every at bat.
Because you can't get him over, especially early in the game, then, you know, here's the fastball. And as good as it was, he was fine. And then, of course, the 6th inning was a problem with him. He's one of the guys you and I believe should have probably been 50, 60 games over 500 in his career, and
no
that
question.
just didn't work.
That ball is scalded. That ball is absolutely scalded off Zobrist. It's a good thing it didn't hit him in the kneecap.
This ball hit awfully hard. Personally, I would give him a double, but they're limiting him to a single. This was a slider. Now, he threw a great slider and backed it up with a slider that didn't do very well. The infield is so hard here, and the ball accelerates off the bat much more quickly in Arizona, and Zobrist just gets eaten up. That's for sure a base hit, a non-debatable base hit.
Here's Abreu. Last year, 293, 25 homers, drove in 100. 30-year-old first baseman.
I'm going to ask you as we move down the road a little bit. There you see a wild pitch, but I'm going to ask you about Avi's stroke because we talked about it, and the White Sox have been talking about Avisail Garcia's stroke, how strong he is, how much exit velocity he gets, and what he has to do to hit the ball in the air more consistently, because from a tactician standpoint, you can dissect a swing as well as anybody in the game. And what would you tell him if you were the guy?
Go play. Just go play.
He's going to do that.
Just go play. Have some fun.
You think they will? You think it'll naturally come to him to get a little more elevation on that stroke?
Here's one of the beautiful things about baseball. What's the mantra, so to say? It's a kid's game, right?
Well, yeah, it's a kid's game played by adults.
Exactly. So what if, when you graduate from being an infant to a teenager, from a teenager to an adult, the one thing you don't want to lose are your childlike qualities.
With the enjoyment of the game like Miguel Cabrera has every day.
That's why Latins, when they down in the islands, before they get here, they have fun playing the game of baseball. And all of a sudden they get here, and here come all these numbers, all the sabermetrics, all you got to do this, you got to do that. Let them play. There's a chopper in the hole. Nice play by Bryant. The peg in time. Good play by Chris.
That's an area of the game that Bryant has improved in drastically because the jury was out. Could he play Major League third base? When he first came up, it looked like he might be inconsistent down there. But as the years have moved along, and he hasn't had that many of them, he's gotten better and better at third base to now he's not a liability. In fact, at times he's a plus at third.
Well, 2 years ago, I remember 2 years ago in spring training, there was talk about moving him to right field.
And they still get him some time in left field on occasion.
Yeah. So here is Todd. When you lose your childlike qualities as a hitter, that means one thing. You're thinking about mechanics. And when you're thinking about mechanics, you can't hit. Now, if they hang a curveball or throw you a high straight change, yeah, anybody can hit those. That ball is hit hard, but they got a man there, a pretty good one too, in the outfield. Hayward makes the catch. And after one, no score. Top of the second inning.
It's opening day on April 3rd as our Sox start the season against division rivals, the Detroit Tigers. So head down to Guaranteed Rate Field for a fun afternoon of tailgating, live music before the first pitch, which starts at 3:10. All fans in attendance receive a 2017 magnetic schedule. So great seats still available. Get yours today at whitesox.com.
Here's the switch hitting second baseman veteran who was a big pickup for the Cubs last year, Ben Zobrist, and joining us in the booth, former Sox player, well, I guess you could say, if you wanted to put it in kind of proper context, possibly the greatest athlete to ever live, Bo Jackson. Bo, welcome, buddy. It's always nice to see you with that smile of yours, you know.
Well, I saw it. practice field. But you know, I work now, so I'm out on the practice field with the guys. And I saw you drive by, and I went to wave at you, but you was busy talking to somebody, and you didn't see me. But I said, there's Hawk Harrelson.
Bo, you've been working with those kids. Steve and I were talking earlier, like in the opening, that we've got some of the best-looking young players, talent-wise, that we've had in a long time here, if ever.
You got some. The White Sox got some horses. They have some thoroughbreds. It's just not the fact that we got one or two good players. You walk around the locker room and it's a stable of stallions. Just as simple as that.
Well, the thing we were talking last night and also this morning. Managing today, anything today in baseball is tougher than it's ever been. The talent that we're seeing coming in is just phenomenal. You know, I said this thing with that ball into right field. Ivy right there in his tracks makes the catch. The best shortstop that I ever played against was Louis Aparicio. We've got 5 young shortstops in the American League today who are better than Louis was. That just goes to show the talent that's coming up. Now, I got to segue into the secret to managing today. Wins and losses are not the mark of a good manager. It's how they play for him, how hard they play for him.
Absolutely.
Wins and losses are the mark of a general manager, but not the manager.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And the talent that clubs are putting out on field, this is throughout baseball. It's just phenomenal. And the reason for that is because kids are training now a whole lot different than they did when we played ball. They're training year-round. And the training equipment is a whole lot more advanced than what we had.
But you also, look, you were a man who had a few injuries, obviously curtailed your career, but you were able to stay healthy when it was time to play. I guess the question I ask is, if you only train for one sport, is that why guys are getting more injuries today?
No, I would not say that. Injuries are going to come. It doesn't matter how hard you train or how less you change.
Stay with us. We're going to bring you right back, and right now we're going to cut away, and we'll be back. We're back in the booth with legendary Bo Jackson. And Bo, a two-sport star, could play all the sports, of course. And we're talking about injuries, but let us get off that for 1 second, because this year, with a week extra in spring training, we have guys like Ryan Braun of Milwaukee, the slugger there, saying he feels spring training is too long. Did you feel, when you were immersed in it, that spring training was too long, or do you think it was just the right amount of time, or too short?
Well, the thing about it, when I was in spring training, I knew that, and a lot of other players knew that what I do in spring training is going to carry me through the season. And even if spring training was 2 months, it is what it is. And to be honest with you, when you have people complaining about something that almost every person on the planet would want to do is complaining about his job, there's something wrong. There's something that's out of place, and to have that, to say that, I just don't understand it.
I have a hard time too. I mean, when you look at, and you know, look, money is relative. They make more money now than ever before, but the average salary for Ryan Braun is $21 million a year. And I think when people hear him complaining about the fact that spring training might be a little too long, they can't go wah or oh is him. They just take it the fact that, look, hitters certainly get their swings grooved and everything is fine. But spring training, like you say, World Baseball Classic this year, it's a week longer. So you deal with what you have and you get ready accordingly. You were a veteran player after a few years. So I assume you knew exactly what it took to get you ready for the season.
Exactly what it took. And spring training, for me and everybody else, every other batter, get as many at bats as you can as possible. Period. Because it's going to carry you for the rest of the season.
Well, in both cases, I think it was a little different too, because I can't imagine, because I didn't see you every spring you had, but I can't imagine Bo Jackson walking into spring training out of shape.
No.
I don't think you walked anywhere out of shape.
You were always in shape.
Absolutely.
Other guys, they had to work their behinds off to get in shape, and by the time the season started, they were out of gas.
There you go. There you go. But it's
that ball hit hard by Ivy to the shortstop.
You trained in both places. You trained in Florida. You trained in Arizona. Preference?
Preference? I like both. I like both from the standpoint. You get out here, the air is a little thinner. It's a little hotter. It's a little thinner. And you play the hand that you dealt. And I would say, at this point in time in my life, if I had to pick one or the other, I would rather train here. I'd rather have my spring training in Arizona.
Well, less travel, certainly. You're not going across Alligator Alley and playing somebody and getting home at 3 in the morning.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, in Florida, we were talking about that the other day. Is that's going to be a base hit? Just missed the bag, but we were talking. AJ came over to the house the other day, Pierzynski, and we were talking about spring training. And there's no question you can spend 6-7 hours a day on a bus in Florida.
Yes, you can.
You know,
yes,
Arizona,
you can.
The longest road trip we have from here is Mesa. So it's 25-30 minutes. You know.
No, there was a lot of time.
Big difference.
Wasted on buses, and in Arizona you just don't have. That's the beauty of it down here. Plus, from a hitting standpoint, hitters should pay to play in Arizona. The ball flies, the infield is hard. From a pitching standpoint, you misevaluate pitchers in Arizona much more readily than you do in Florida.
Yes, you do.
I don't know what the statistics would say, but I would bet a dozen golf balls that there are more pitcher injuries in Florida than there are in Arizona than they are down in Florida.
Yeah, you're trying to tighten up your breaking ball in a place where it won't tighten up.
You're having to work harder on the breaking ball. As here is Saladino having a good spring, as he should. He's a good player.
Does it still excite you to see young, enormously talented players who have yet to get their talent brought to the forefront?
It's funny that you say that, because I look at guys now and I'm like, and I look at what they have, just like you just said, and I'm like, wow. I'm like, wow.
And speaking of wow, there is a catcher that can really throw the baseball.
Yes, he can.
Contreras had a great pitch to throw. Anderson took off. He had him by a mile. This throw is right there waiting for Tim to arrive. And that's one of the pluses of a guy who was a third baseman. Maybe not necessarily on his way out of baseball, but certainly not going to the major leagues until they converted him to a catcher. And boy, he can get it done.
That ball hit high and deep into left field. Stretch! Stretch! Get back. It is off the wall, so now he'll make the turn, going his way to third base, and he will get there. Saladino.
Good job.
He's just a good player. You know, he's one of those guys. He's good in the clubhouse. He does the job on the field. And the thing that I like about Tyler Saladino most is when you get a good pitcher out there, especially in the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning, he is a dangerous hitter. Well, I'm never asking. All the years we've known each other, I've never asked you this question. When you came up, first of all, Schuerholz, I was going to draft you after I got you, and I thought, what was it, 6th round or something? Mm-hmm. And I had told him because we didn't think you were going to be signing. And I said, I don't care if he's going to be signing or not. There's a base hit.
Nobody did.
Everybody thought you were going to play football.
Uh-huh.
I sent a scout down there for a week to look at you. And he said, Hawk, I don't think he's signable. I think he's going to play football. So you come into baseball now. And by the way, he also said Bo Jackson's the only man that could hit it 450 feet, run out there and catch it and throw himself out at the plate. But when you came in, if ever, did any hitting coach try to change your swing?
Not really. When I came in, they said I had this raw talent. And they just let me come into my own. And then I started working with the batting coach.
Bo, that's the third out. Listen, thanks for the time, buddy.
Thank you, guys.
Nice to say hello to the family.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. You too.
Now for your chance to win a pair of gold box tickets to White Sox opening day on Monday, April 3rd. The prize includes a 2017 MLB TV premium year subscription, which is just great. Visit whitesox.com/OD sweepstakes for complete details and enter today.
You know, when I asked Bo that question about that, anybody try to change the swing, that to me is one of the biggest things that happens in baseball today. And yeah, I don't know if you'll recall the broadcast, a couple of broadcasts last year that I had mentioned. You don't teach guys how to hit at the big league level. You teach them how to be dangerous. Well, you can't believe how many people, I had some players and also a couple of hitting coaches call me this winter and ask me about that and to explain it to them. If you're thinking from the plate, when you step in that batter's box, if you're thinking from the plate back, that's mechanics. If you're thinking from the plate forward, that's approach. Thinking back is the problems. Out in front are the solutions. And that is why I was not shocked at all that nobody tried to change ball. When you got raw talent like that, and you get guys coming in with raw talent, you let them go, you let them go, you let them go until they finally come to you and say, what do you think?
One of the things that I really have disliked, and happens quite a bit, there's a routine play to short, and he's got him easily. But A guy will have success in the minor leagues. I mean, and many times, lots of success. Otherwise, he wouldn't get invited to spring training, wouldn't get a shot at the major league team, wouldn't be on the 40-man roster. And all of a sudden, somebody looks at him. Sometimes it's the hitting coach. Sometimes it's maybe a minor league guy. Sometimes it's another major league guy giving him some instruction. But they want to change him from the way he was successful by telling him, you can't hit that way in the major leagues. My feeling was always, why don't you find out if he can hit that way? Because if he can, you don't have to change him at all.
Well, first of all, they're going to rebel if you immediately, and I've seen it happen too many times, not just in the Sox organization, but I've seen it happen with other organizations as well. I've seen it happen too many times that after an 0 for 4 and 0 for 8, here we go. They're going to change something.
Oh, yeah. No, they say, well, you got to drop your hands, or you have to raise your hands, or you've got to do whatever it is you have to do.
That's one reason I think that Todd Stevenson, Trick, our batting out hitting coach, would like to see these guys have the opportunity to fail. If you give them the opportunity to fail, a lot of times they won't. But the ones that do, now they're susceptible to learning. They're susceptible to what you have to say.
Well, look, here's Tim Anderson, who hit in the minor leagues. He came up here, actually played better in the major leagues he did in the minor leagues. But, you know, you take a look at a guy with that much raw talent and say, hey, go out there, have some fun, enjoy yourself. Let's see what you can do. And if he thrives, you have to do nothing. Absolutely nothing. Now, he had to rework some of the defensive aspects, which Joe McEwing and a few other guys worked with him on. It worked out very well because he was a completely different guy that we saw come to the major leagues than we saw in spring training last year. I mean, it was like a different player. And now he's established himself as a guy who looks like he's going to be a major league star at shortstop.
Well, there's so many things that go into. One of the managers last year in the American League asked me, he says, Hawk, I saw a game that you guys did the other day, and you said something I've never heard, that you don't teach guys to hit at the big league level. You teach them how to be dangerous. What do you mean? I said, well, what do you want? I said to this manager, I said, what do you want your hitters to give you in a game? There's base on balls to La Stella. He said a good at bat. I said exactly. You want him to give you 4 good at bats. It's almost impossible to give 4 good at bats in a game if you're thinking mechanics. It's almost impossible. You can have, now listen, if I'm facing you and I've got an approach and I'm going to stand right on top of that plate, and for some reason you're going to go ahead and hit your spots, I'm 0 for 4. When a major league pitcher hits the spots, you're going to go, I don't care if your name's Ted Williams, I don't care, Bo Jackson, Ken Harrelson, whoever, you're going to go 0 for 4. So we're talking about hitting mistakes. That's what we're doing. And you're going to make mistakes.
Well, you can make a lot of money if you're just a mistake hitter in the major leagues.
That's what most of the guys in Cooperstown.
Because you're going to get them.
Well, here's the fine line in that. When most guys, average players, like I was an average player, when I step into that box, I'm a 7.5 to 1 underdog to fail. Okay? The guy who steps in that box is only a 7 to 1 underdog fail is in Cooperstown.
Well, he's a star. He's a 300 hitter.
He's in Cooperstown. And that's how the fine line is. And most of those guys who are in Cooperstown don't think mechanics. They're thinking on how to beat Steve Stone. They're thinking on how to beat Justin Verlander. They're thinking on how to beat Chris Sale. How can I be dangerous against him?
Well, more times than not, in the decade or two that you and I played in, guys would make consistent adjustments. They would move up, they would move back, they would see what you're doing with them today, and they would make an adjustment. Get away from the plate, get on top of the plate, do whatever it is they do. Use a heavier bat, use a lighter bat. Now we see guys using the same bats, the same stance, the same approach. Everything is the same. But if a guy keeps getting you out, he's not going to adjust because he's getting you out. It's up to you to adjust, and we don't see much adjustment today.
The first guy to really get in my head about that was a guy named Joe Cronin, who was president of the American League and a former Hall of Fame shortstop for the Boston Red Sox. And his office was only a couple of miles from where I lived in Boston when I played for the Red Sox. And he called me up one morning and says, come down, I want to talk to you. So I go down there, I walk into his office, and he looks at me and he said, I've been watching you every game. He said, are you dumb or what?
So you said it's or what? Now where are we going from here?
I said, what do you mean? I called him Top Cat because we had played some golf together. He said, I said, well, Top Cat, what are you talking about? He said, you're standing in the same place in that box against a hard-throwing right-hander as you are against a soft-tossing left-hander. Where's the common sense in that? He said, that batter's box is yours. You can go anywhere in that batter's box you want. You can go up front. You can go back. You can back off the plate. You can stand on top of the plate. You're in the same place every time. It's so easy for them to get a book on you. It's unbelievable. He said, what you got, I call it over the years, is there's another base on balls to Jay. I call it a sense of control. When I step in that box, either I'm going to have that sense of control or you're going to have it. One of the two of us is going to have that sense of control. Every now and then you run where we both have it, or we both don't. And the thing is that you can make guys throw you certain pitches or not throw you certain pitches on where you stand in that box. And you try to get, I know I talked with Todd about this last year and the year before. He's tried to get some of our guys to move around in that box, and they won't do it.
Well, the easiest way maybe to describe what Hawk was just explaining was occasionally you find a hitter that stands way off the plate. So much so that you don't see the hitter when you're looking. You just see the catcher. You see the outside corner. Looks like you've got 6 feet to throw it in there, and then you throw it on the outside corner, and the guy hits the daylights out of it and doubles to right center. And you say to yourself, well, how could he do that? If he's standing off the plate, he's inviting the ball away. So he's looking for the ball away, and he's going to stride into it. If you fall into that particular trap, you probably belong to him. And that's with you saying you're dictating and forcing the pitcher to throw you the pitch that you will be looking for.
I'll give you a good example. I'm not going to mention his name, but a guy that you and I both know very well, and who was a good pitcher. First 5 years I was in the league, he owned me. And he's a right-hander because I stood off the plate against everybody. Well, that's high and deep and way back. Way back. It is 3-1 Cubs.
And now you see one of the reasons why this young man is going to be a major league star. And this year, unlike the last couple, they're going to start to play him against some left-hand pitchers, as he is in there today against one, because that's a no-doubter. And that's a young hitter, wise beyond his years, taking advantage of a pitcher struggling with his control. He's looking fastball, middle out, anything he can drive, because he knows Holland has walked the 2 guys before him. He's not going to walk him. And he drilled it. And that's a home run any park, any time of year where the wind is blowing in any direction.
That's off the top of the wall of the Grand Canyon.
It's a blast.
So Brian is retired. But the whole point is, again, not trying to figure out how you can hit major league pitching, but just how you can be dangerous. I know one thing. If you try to stand on top of the plate against if you're a right-handed hitter against a left-hander with a good slider, you're taking the worst of it. If you stand off the plate with a right-hander with a good breaking ball, you're taking the worst of it. Here is Rizzo, popped up to Tim Anderson.
Well, the Cubs come in at 7-9, and our Sox come in at 8-11 and 1 tie.
11-8.
11-8 rather, and 1 tie. It's been a pretty decent spring overall. And what the Sox are trying to do right now is what all teams are trying to do. The record becomes irrelevant. You're trying to make sure you get through with no injuries. And if a manager can do that with his club, he's a happy man.
Well, if you'll recall way back when the Yankees were the Yankees and the Yankees were Mantle and Maris and all those guys, they very seldom came out of spring training with a winning record.
Didn't have to. Those veteran players knew what they had to do.
That ball hit deep into center field. Gorgeous. One hop. That's what we were just talking about. When a pitcher, major league pitcher, hits his spots, you're going to go for 4. When he doesn't, that's when you got to get it.
This one's supposed to be low and away, and he doesn't get it there. He gets it just above waist high, out over the plate. Anthony Rizzo, who keeps getting better and better, drills it against the wall for a 2-base hit, keeps the inning alive, an inning that was set up by back-to-back walks to the 8th and 9th hitter, La Stella and Jay.
So the Sox, as we mentioned at the top, an interesting expectation this year. Something that a lot of people, especially who've been in this camp, I have not been in the camp that long, but it didn't take but just an hour to find out. There's a lot of excitement here.
Even early in the spring, and talking with some of the guys who had been here many years, they said the same thing. They'd never seen as much enthusiasm from a group of guys as the Sox this year. That's because so many young players trying to make a mark, trying to come out every day and do something to impress upon the coaches that if not necessarily they're ready now, they will be ready in the not too distant future. And it's really nice to see some of these guys, the talent that they have, and then they just have to take that next step, and that's something you can't predict. But the one thing you can't teach if you're a pitcher is velocity. The one thing you can't teach if you're a hitter is just raw power. Those things either you can improve upon them a little bit, but not to a great deal.
Rizzo, one of the best two-strike approaches that we've talked about that since he's come into the major leagues, and the Cubs have played against us, choking up on that bat. Last year with 2 strikes, Rizzo hit .243.
He used to open up and try to hit that ball 8 miles, and then short stroke, choke up, stay closed, works out well.
You know what the league average was?
What, 210?
176.
176. Okay.
Big, long 3-run homer by Schwarber, and it's 3-1 Cubs. Sox fans, show your team pride with White Sox checking, an official White Sox MasterCard debit card only available at your local Wintrust Community Bank. So go to wintrust.com/Sox to learn more. Member FDIC.
And Rob Zastrini. Probably didn't get that right. We'll go with Zastrizny. And he's on for the 4th time. And there you look at the numbers. His numbers are as difficult as his name. 1473.
I was watching you when he threw his name up. You should have seen the look on your face.
Trying to, and the funny thing was, I went to Len Casper, who's their play-by-play man, and I went before the game and I said, how do you pronounce this guy's name? And he called me, Destrizny. I said, okay. And then by the time I went from his booth to here, gone. I have the retention span of a sea bass.
That's what it is with me on the golf course. I'll be just absolutely striping it on the practice tee. And then the first tee is only 40, 50 yards away. By the time I get there, I've forgotten what I did.
You're right. Don't forget how you did it.
3-1. 3-2-0 for them. A couple of walks have scored. 1-4-0 for us. There's a bullet by Borges. I know when they picked up Peter Borges, I was pleased.
Well, they got him initially as an insurance policy because you never know what happens with injuries and everything else. And Charlie Tilson, who has a great amount of ability. Last year, we saw him in his first game, tear his hamstring, had surgery, came to spring training this year, high hopes. And unfortunately, his foot didn't allow him to put as much pressure on it as he wanted. And so it's been, for him to this point, pretty much a lost spring. And Borges taking advantage of it, as is Jacob May.
Tilson, barring injury, is going to be the opening day center field.
Yeah, I mean, they said, here you go. But
and when they picked up Borges, if you got Peter Borges, now if you're looking for defenses, which is, you know how I feel about defense. First rule in baseball is you got to catch the ball. When you're looking for a fourth outfielder, Borges is a pretty good pickup. That speed he's got, he can cover center, right center, and left center.
Yeah, you have to make sure that you're well covered. One of the things that the Cubs do have is phenomenal depth. And so if anybody goes down, they've got more guys than they know what to do with, especially in the outfield. They've got enough catchers, certainly. It's a very deep organization these days.
There's a chopper. Fine, good play. Nice play. Second nice play that Chris has made.
He's got a very strong arm. That was never a problem. Now it's becoming more and more accurate. And I think that if Ben Zobrist had caught that ball cleanly, probably would have had a chance at 2. Didn't quite work out that way. And Zobrist, a huge pickup for this team. Of course, Joe Maddon very familiar with him with his days in Tampa Bay. They love his attitude. They love his versatility. And they love the fact that he gets some big hits for them.
Bayou fouls it. Rizzo giving chase. He's got room, makes the catch. So Bayou now 0 for 2.
Yeah, you probably want to hit it to somebody else. Anthony Rizzo, one of the best fielding first basemen in the league. He knows exactly where he is. He takes a look, realizing that ball rotating back toward the field of play, puts it away.
Well, one of the reasons they have such tremendous depth is they had some strong players in their minor league system. For the last several years, Cubs probably have had the best young talent in baseball.
Well, look, what they did was something that teardown teams do. Theo Epstein came over and said, we are changing everything, literally everything. Now, he kept some of the personnel who were evaluating, were brought in, a lot of his own, but they tore it down. They got high draft picks. They took advantage of those draft picks. They made some decent trades, but better free agent acquisitions, and that's really, you see the fruits of his labors on a daily basis on the field.
There's a bullet down into the left field corner. So ground rule double.
Yeah, that might have been a bad break. If that ball stays in the field of play, there's a good chance that Melky scores easily. As it turns out, it is a double as this ball up in the zone. Frazier tattoos it down the line. He's swinging the bat a whole lot better, even though he's got nothing to show for it average-wise. But he has just come back, and now he's healthy. He had an oblique problem, so it set him back about 3 weeks. Now he's 100%.
Here's Javi. Javi grounded to short, but it was a hard hit ground ball. Outfield straight up, spread out. Breaking ball strike.
So you think Hawk, with his stroke, don't look to do anything except get more at bats?
That's it. Just let him play. Let him play. Let him go out there. He's one of, certainly one of, Got in on him right there. And that'll retire the side. So 2 out. Fred goes by the boards. We trail it 3-1. There's a pair of beat a full house right there. But Brooks Boyer, I'm going to ask you one question, because all you got to do is ask Brooks one question, and he can go the whole inning on it.
That's true. So as I was saying, Hawk,
okay.
Notre Dame in the Final Four.
I didn't know that. Steve told me that this morning. I didn't know I was flying.
Well, they did get through the first game, although there was, there was some tense moments. I'm sure that you weren't all that tense because you probably thought they had it all the way.
Survive in advance. No, I was jumping around the hotel room like every other Notre Dame fan.
Well, a lot of people don't know Brooks was 2-time captain of the Notre Dame basketball team. Does that mean you had to be at least decent?
No, that's you can look up
or
the
you
stats.
BS to everybody.
Yeah. Well,
however,
sometimes style can beat out substance.
A lot of points. A lot of points.
As we call them now, the glory years.
The glory days,
of Notre Dame. So let's talk a little bit about the ballpark. Start first with the fact that it's got a new name. And how did that come about?
Well, Guaranteed Rate is a Chicago-based company, and since they've done this deal of putting their name on the ballpark, and change is never easy. It's not easy for a lot of people because you've built memories, whether it was Comiskey Park or U.S. Cellular Field and now Guaranteed Rate Field. You build memories at those ballparks, so it is different to have a different name on it. But the things that Guaranteed Rate and the resources that they're bringing to the table for us to continue to improve the ballpark experience makes them a really good partner for us. So, there's nothing better than fun at the ballpark, and there's nothing now that we say there's nothing better than fun at Guaranteed Rate Field.
You guys have something that I haven't noticed you've done before, and that is you're allowing our fans to get pretty much the ultimate White Sox experience in the month of April for a very low price. Why don't you explain that ticket package? Because to me, it seems like it's phenomenal.
It is. It's a great package. You get all of the April games for one low price. And when you buy the ballpark pass, you go through the app, through your phone, and you'll say, I'm going to the game tonight. And you will be assigned tickets, and you'll be given tickets to that game. So as the April, if you want to hit a number of games, I think the average ticket price is like $3 for the package.
Well, it's $39. Right. You don't get opening day, but you can upgrade to opening day for still a very small price. Yep. I mean, this is terrific.
It is. It's a great way for people to get into the baseball season. you have the 11 games, the option to buy opening day. There are tickets available for opening day, so we'll be encouraging fans to come out as much as they could. There's a great process that's in place, and I'm sure you guys either have talked about it already, but we'll talk about it when Rick comes on. That is going to be very exciting for our fans. Our fans understand the situation, what's going on, and for us to watch some of these guys and this team develop is going to be a lot of fun. I'm borrowing Rick's words. I'll probably say them later, but we're a lot closer to the front of the process than the back of the process. But there's a lot to be excited about, as I'm sure as you guys have walked around here during the spring. There's a lot to be excited about with White Sox.
I've always felt that our ballpark food is as good as anybody in baseball and better than most, but I know you're making some additions, so what can I enjoy that's new this year?
Well, one of the fan favorites that's here at the ballpark in Glendale are the noodles. There's a noodle stand. It's always our #1 seller. So you're going to see a new noodle stand at the ballpark. I think people will enjoy that. And then there you go. There's a nice shot of the noodle stand. It's outstanding. It's terrific, and we're bringing it to Chicago. But I will tell you, there's a new product that is these fresh-made hot donuts that are going into the ballpark. They're insane. They are really, really good. So we look forward. We're gonna have a big media tour towards the end of the month and announce all the new
Wow! What a play by a talented young man, Tim Anderson. Stay with us, folks.
You bet.
All right.
It's a 3-1 Cubs lead, but I'm here with Brooks Boyer, who was here with us last inning, talking about a few of the new things about the ball club. And there's one major new thing, and that is something that I know is near and dear to the hearts of many of you, certainly to me, and that would be beer, and a new beer sponsor coming into the ballpark. And tell us a little bit about it.
Sure. Modelo is the fastest growing beer brand in the country, and it's based in Chicago. And so Modelo is coming on as our official import partner, and it gives us a lot of flexibility. We were talking about before we went to the break was we're very much so known for our food and things that people can enjoy at the ballpark. Now we're going to be able to do a lot more on the beer front as well. So Modelo will come on as a new sponsor. There's going to be a new bar that goes into left field, and then on top of it, we are remaking the Bullpen Sports Bar, and it's going to be called the Craft Cave, and we are going to have all sorts of different craft options. So as people come to the games, we may have as many as 100 different beers at the ballpark. So whatever your taste palette is, from the lightest of beers to the heaviest of beers, you're going to be able to get it at the ballpark.
Well, a lot of people want to know if some of the fixtures at the ballpark are going to be changed, such as the Bertucci boys.
Well, the Bertucci boys never change. We know that. So they're here. Bobby was giving out free hugs in the concourse. I saw him doing that earlier.
That was a big seller, I'm sure.
It was. They didn't have to raise the price. But the patio experience is, as you guys know, whether it's having a season ticket plan or individual games, or if you're bringing a group out to the ballpark and want to have a great experience before the game, the patio, the food is great, the atmosphere is awesome, and it's a great way to have all you can eat, all you can drink up to the second inning before you go into the outfield and watch a game. So there are so many ways to enjoy the ballpark. Our family Sundays are coming back. We're $15 tickets in the outfield, $5 tickets in the upper deck, and parking is $10. So there's affordable options to be able to get to Guaranteed Rate Field and enjoy the White Sox and enjoy watching these guys compete. And I think that's what we all enjoy doing is getting out to the ballpark and seeing how this process unfolds.
As we move along a little later in the season, we're going to start seeing some of the products that Rick Hahn was able to assemble in his trades of both Adam Eaton and Chris Sale. And so I think exciting times are ahead because you've seen some of the young players. I mean, they've got enormous talent. Almost up and down, the whole 7 acquired have a lot of talent.
It is. It's a talented group, and that's what we've had people buy season tickets now because they want to have the best seats possible to watch this thing move. And it's really an exciting from a marketing standpoint, from a business standpoint. We look forward to hosting fans and letting them watch this process play itself out. So whether it's a ballpark pass in April or a 7-game plan, a 14-game plan, a 27-game plan, or 81, we're open and we want people to come see the games.
Well, the theme actually is going to be, as you and I talked earlier, is going to be watching these good young talents. Now, Bo was up here earlier, and Bo was just extolling the young talent that we had over there. I mean, it's just, he said they're all thoroughbreds. And when you get a group of guys like that together, and all of a sudden, I believe, let's put it this way. We all love Robin Ventura. There's no question about it.
Yep.
I love him like a second son. He was my second all-time White Sox player. Joe Madden, Bruce Bochy, Mike Sosa. These guys don't know any more baseball than Robin. But what they do have a knack of doing is putting something together that came together with young players. Mm-hmm. And I think Rick Renteria, from what I've heard and been talking, I've even talked with Rick from Orlando. I've never heard the energy in Jerry Reinsdorf when he called me a couple of weeks ago. I've never heard the energy in his voice the way he is now. It's been a long time. Mm-hmm. Everybody's just ecstatic about what is happening here this spring, and that bodes well.
Mm-hmm. And that's what we're talking about is come out and check these guys out. WhiteSox.com is the best place to get tickets. But I think everybody, when you're in spring training, everybody is optimistic. But what is great, what I think Rick and Jerry and Kenny have clearly communicated is this is the plan, and White Sox fans understand the plan, and it may take some patience, but it is what we're trying to do to ultimately have long-term sustained success, which obviously on the business side, on the ticket side, helps us because it's going to be a much more popular product. That's why we're encouraging people to get their season tickets now.
There's a ball up the middle. Madison Russell's got it, throws him out, and that'll retire the side. Another half inning.
Look, you guys are the boss.
Okay. 3-1 Cubs.
Provide your guests with the ultimate all-inclusive White Sox experience and guaranteed rate Park Club or the Magellan Scout seats. These two premium seating areas are the best way to entertain your most important clients, employees, friends, or family, and are available for season ticket packages or individual games. So for more information, call 312-674-1000 or visit whitesox.com/premium seating.
Tommy La Stella as Derek Holland works into his 5th inning of work. And Steve, I tell you what, I am, for one, glad to see. I would love to see starters go longer in the games in spring training. As there's the base hit. You know,
I feel the same way as you did. My first spring, when I was only 23, I'd had 2 minor league seasons in A ball and Double A. Didn't really do much above that. Maybe a short stint in Triple A, but I threw 38 innings in spring training.
Yeah.
And that was, if not the norm, that might have been a few innings over. But everybody was throwing in the high 20s, early 30s as far as innings in spring. And I can understand pitching B games. That's fine as long as you're getting your innings in. But I think the more we try to protect a lot of these guys, the worse it works out for us, as we're seeing guys who are today bigger, stronger, quicker, and faster than ever. They're getting hurt seemingly more than ever. And it becomes really difficult because you're not going to replace your 1 and 2 starters if they go down in the spring. It's really difficult to do that.
Well, one of the biggest factors for me is the fact that today, when you start a team, the first thing you got to start it with or think about is the bullpen. Now, in my opinion, what we have with the White Sox now, the 2 strongest points we have going into the season to try to win games is the bullpen.
Well, Petrichka and Putnam coming back. Pretty
That's
good.
what I'm saying.
Yeah, pretty good.
That's the strongest point of our team right now. So you got to, if that's the strongest point, you got to protect them, and you protect them by having these guys go longer. Now, last year, for an example, looks like we started off 23-10. We had the best bullpen in the major leagues in April. We had a 1.69 ERA, but coming out of spring training with only 1 off day last year. That meant these starters weren't going to be going 4 or 5 innings. The bullpen had to pick them up, and then in May, we were 23rd. We had a 4.60 team ERA. So we got a strong bullpen now. We got to protect it, and the way to do it is, I think I read something or either texted Rick when he said he's going to start letting these guys go a little bit longer in spring training, and that bodes well, for the club, and it bodes well for what you're trying to do is present to our fans the theme of what we're going to try to do this year, and put some fannies in seats.
Well, I know from talking to the baseball guys and hearing Rick Renteria, the theme is to compete, is to get out
That's
there,
it.
and I know you guys have seen it, and I've seen it in the. I've probably watched with our webcasts or the broadcast. I'm watching a lot of White Sox baseball in March, but you haven't seen a guy jog down the line. And you haven't seen guys trying to do the right thing every single time, and that says something to what is that first step, and that first step is to compete and play the right way, and I think the manager has had an impact already on that.
Well, I think if you jog down the line once with Rick, that's probably going to be the last time you jog down the line for a while, and he's going to do it in a friendly way. He's that kind of guy, but he's going to impress upon his team how he wants them to play. What I like is he appears to be a very aggressive manager, and this is going to be a lot more aggressive team this year. Whether they get thrown out or not, they're going to go from first to third. They're going to try to steal some bases. They're going to try to put the pressure on the defense because, as Rick has said, they're not going to execute all the time, and we want to pressure them as much as possible, which you can't sit back and wait for the 3-run homer. It doesn't come all that often.
Right, and that's what I think we believe as we look on the business side is that's what fans are ultimately going to want to come out and see is a team that does exactly that. And that, Stoney, is why we have a season ticket plan for every single person.
We do, and we also have a plan that is catered to somebody who can't make it all the time. Maybe he can only make it at nights. We have one of those. Maybe just weekends. We have one of those. Maybe, he can split it with a friend of his. And, we have some of that. So the flexibility is there. And I think the product is going to get better and better. Understanding that when you do a rebuild, you have to go through some lean times before you can get to the really exciting times. And with that in mind, I think Rick and the front office is working very hard on a daily basis to try to improve the team, which means, in my estimation, trades are not over yet. It's just waiting for timing.
Right, and you'll see a lot from us this year. You know, all of our theme nights, all of our giveaways, a lot of great giveaways that we're doing over the course of the year. Our fireworks nights, our family Sundays, all these things are catered to the fans, and you know the product on the field is going to be an interesting one to watch. We don't know where it's going to end up in the standings, but you know certainly there's an unfolding of something interesting here that certainly fans will like.
How about the dog day? Are we having 1 or 2 dog days?
Well, you know, the dog day last year set a Guinness Book of World Records.
I know, it was wonderful. A lot of pause.
So you know, we are world records holders, which is.
Are we going to defend
really
our
exciting.
title?
I don't know if we're going to go for a second one. There's a couple staff people that might shoot me if we tried to do that. But that's the point. It's fun. It's fun to come to the ballpark. You get a chance to bring your dog to the ballpark. All the promotions are at WhiteSox.com. We're doing a significant number of group nights that people will be able to participate and make the ballpark experience as good as it possibly can, as it can be.
1-2 the count to Schwarber. And if you missed what he did back in the 3rd inning, poof, here it is.
Brooke, take a look, Brooks, and you'll see that this was wind-blown. Yeah, I don't think
barely fair.
I don't think it gets out of here, especially unless Hurricane Katrina were to come in from right field. That's the only thing that kept it in the park.
Down ball, base hit, reaches out and just pokes it through that hole. There's a throw to third base. Now they're going to. Everybody, nobody was a second. He was the cutoff man. Tyler thought he was going to be the cutoff man. Meanwhile, it is 4-1.
One of the big factors, and there's been a couple of them, over the last few years, the base running has not been really good, and they've done this a lot, taking the double play out of order by thinking you can make an out, and you let the trailer move to second base after a base hit. This is something perhaps that Avi wants to think about, and that's going to be it for Derek Holland. He's going to leave trailing for the moment 4-1. So we'll step out. Be back after these messages. A new Sox pitcher, and it is Tommy Kahnle, who inherits Cub base runners at second and third. Some problems here in the 5th inning, and there you look at the numbers. He's on for the 6th time, trying to earn a spot in the bullpen. The arm, never a problem. He's got a big fastball. He fits right in with a lot of other great arms that the Sox have. The question has always been for Tommy, can he get the ball over the plate? If he can, as you can see, left-hander is hitting 182. If he can get the ball over the plate, he can help the Sox out of the bullpen. And if that translates into yes, he can get it over consistently, he might just secure a spot.
Well, Derek Holland threw the ball well. The only thing got him in trouble was the base on balls. He walked two that scored ahead of that home run in the third, and the base hit, and then the walk to John Jay. So here is Bryant, takes that pitch up high.
I think we got a pretty good idea why Joe Maddon has made a decision, and it's not going to be this way all season long or every game. But Schwarber in the 1 spot, although he doesn't have your prototypical #1 speed, he will get on base, and he will be a huge factor in the run scoring and run driving in department.
Well, I've said this for years, and I'll say it again. It's always mystified me why you don't front load your lineup.
That's what's happening more and more.
I'm telling you.
In this era, more and more, because you get more at bats. It makes more sense. Not only that,
common sense.
Your pitcher's more vulnerable in the first inning than any other inning. Well, you might as well have your bombers back to back to back to back in the first.
Well, Maddon, the last 2 years, applying that philosophy, that formula, so to speak, has won 200 games.
Yeah, he's very good at what he does. He came around at the perfect time. His team was getting better and better. The front office is outstanding under Theo Epstein and Jed Hoyer. Jason McLeod, a great evaluator and developer of talent. They've got a strong front office, and it's translating to a very strong team.
And there's a base hit. That was not good base running, even though he scored by Schwarber. He did not check his outfielders, still had plenty of time to score.
Bryant shows you what big run producers do. He's not trying to pull this ball. He's not trying to hit a home run. This ball is out away, realizing there is a lot of runs batted in if you go the other way as a right-hand hitter with a right-hand pitcher, dumps it into right field and drives home to the reigning most valuable player. And what a career he has lying ahead.
Well, Rookie of the Year's first year, MVP last year.
What do you do to follow up a World Series championship and an MVP at his age?
Well, we better figure out how to do something to counteract that, because they're not going anywhere for a while. Nope. They're going to be around for a while.
And as strong on the corners with Rizzo and Bryant as perhaps any team in all of baseball, stronger than most every team.
Good bad feed by Tyler. Good effort right there by Tim. 1 out.
You got plenty of time to make this play, and unfortunately it wasn't made. That's a long way to go with that backhand flip, which is one of the reasons why I really don't like it. If he catches it and flips it from the side, you'll get a lot more on it. It'll be more accurate, and they would have turned too.
Well, he's got to get in better position. He had time because the ball was not hit that hard. He just didn't get in good position to make the side throw. Those are things that have got to be cleared up and will be cleared up. You know, you were talking earlier with Brooks about guys who don't run them out. Well, one time maybe that's going to be the last time for a while.
Yeah.
Okay. One of the greatest things I've ever heard from a Hall of Fame player giving his induction speech was they asked Robin Yount how he wanted to be remembered. And his answer, I want them to remember how I ran to first base. Running to first base can define a ball club.
I watched him as an all-star as a shortstop, an all-star as a center fielder, and a wonderful hitter with over 3,000 hits. I never saw him dog it one time. He reminded me of a right-handed George Brett. You'll never see an instance anywhere where they didn't give you everything they had.
Zobrist has gone out to right and grounded to short. There's a strike.
Pretty good stat right there. Ben Zobrist, first player to win a World Series MVP in his first season with the team since our Jermaine Dye back in 2005 rather. What a year.
There you go.
You can bid on unique memorabilia from some of your favorite White Sox players, including Jose Abreu, Tim Anderson, Carlton Fisk, Bo Jackson, Carlos Rodon, and more in weekly online auctions. Visit whitesox.com/auctions to start the bidding.
Here's Russell. He is lined hard to right and struck out. And once again, a very happy St. Patrick's Day to each and all. Make it a happy one, but also a safe one. It's Bob Casey, former great PA guy for the Minnesota Twins for years and years and years, would say, no drinking on St. Patrick's Day. They used to say, no smoking in the Metrodome.
Well, there's a few people that will not adhere to that, but that's why they make cabs, Uber, Lyft, and a number of other things that stop you from getting in a car behind the wheel when you've had a drink or two.
He just missed that one. Todd makes the catch in foul ground, but three more across the plate. We're halfway home. We trail it by 5. And after nearly 1,000 wins and 48 years of coaching, learn more about St. Joseph's Gene Pingatore tonight at 9:30 on the Inside Look, presented by Cadillac. Sox with a run in the second. Cubs with 3. A long, towering, monstrous home run by Kyle Schwarber in the third. Picked up 3 more in the top half of this frame, and they lead it 6-1.
Also a very impressive piece of hitting when he got a base hit to drive home a run, because although part of his body seemed to be drifting, he kept his hands in the zone and drove it through the right side. That is a hitter probably a little more developed than his years. Remember when the Cubs drafted him as the 4th pick in the first round out of the University of Indiana? Everybody felt that he was overdrafted. Everybody, that is, except for the Cubs, and it's paid great dividends.
Danny Hayes, the hitter. He lined out hard to right center field. 2-0 the count. There's a strike.
What are your feelings about the World Baseball Classic, which is in full swing at this point?
Well, it's fun to watch, but I wish it wasn't there.
I agree with you. It is fun to watch. There's some pretty intense games. There's been some good baseball. But it makes for, number one, a longer spring. And number two, there's a lot of guys that will get hurt. Martin Prado, one of them, hurt a hamstring. They don't know when he'll be back. Salvador Perez really dodged a bullet. He could have been lost for a great deal of time.
That's one out. Well, the thing about it is you got a 162 game schedule. You're going to play 33 games in spring training, not counting the B games. That's enough.
A lot of games.
That's enough.
A lot of games.
And it's just pushing and pushing and pushing the pendulum, so to speak, more and more importance to the bullpen. The bullpen has got enough. It was, as we mentioned earlier, our guys in April last year, 1.69 ERA, best bullpen in the major leagues, 23 started off 23-10. And without the off days, they only had one. Just got worn out.
Well, that's the amazing thing. One off day the entire month of April. This year, there are 4. So that certainly has to help everybody.
It's going to help everybody, is right. I looked at that schedule last year, and I told Eris, my wife, the day before I left to go to Oakland, start off the season. I said, honey, this schedule, worst I've ever seen. It's going to kill us. She said, why? I said, we only have one off day in April. She says, what does that mean? I said, it means it's going to kill our bullpen.
He did just that. You were prophetic, because that's what happened.
Back to the middle. Borges picks up his second hit.
That's all Peter has to do, and that's what speedy guys realize, especially when they hit high in the order, is try not to hit fly balls. Hit ground balls, take advantage of your speed. Borges has been around as long as he has because he's got a pretty good idea about what to do at the bat. Plus, his defense is outstanding, and he's always had great speed. And so we talked about the fact that he was invited as an insurance policy, which the Sox appear to be cashing in, as injuries have affected the competition in center field.
Oh, look at a nice play on a very, very tough hop with a spin on that ball by Addison Russell, and that'll retire the side. It is still 6-1 Cubs.
Our pregame patio parties are the best deal at the ballpark. Patio tickets are all inclusive. With purchase, you receive a game ticket, can enjoy an all-you-can-eat, my favorite buffet, catered by Baseball Buffet, as well as wine, beer, and Coke products. Patio opens 90 minutes prior to the game and closes 30 minutes after the start of the game. To purchase tickets, visit whitesox.com/group. Michael Kopech comes in the ballgame on for the third time. He of the very hard-throwing Kopechs. He's here to convince the boys he can get the ball over the plate, work on his slider, and he's got an overwhelming fastball.
Here's Jason Hayward. Takes ball one. Jason has lined to right and grounded to second.
Hayward has changed his stroke at the insistence of the Cubs. His hands are further away from his body, as you can see by that shot right there. He had a tendency to tie himself up last year. Hands were in close. Had a hard time getting around on the inside pitch. But played a sparkling defense and helped lead the way from right field, where he is all world.
Not many guys can change their natural stroke.
No, they can't. And he's making an attempt at doing it. He might go back to what he was, but at least at this point, the hands are away from his body.
There's a good strike. Well, I'll tell you that, to me, the greatest thing you can ever hear, or tip you can ever give about hitting, as here's the 2-2. You let your thoughts dictate your mechanics, not your mechanics dictate your thoughts. It's just 180 degrees from the first to the second.
We're going to see a fastball. Let's see where he throws it.
He gone foul tipped, hung on to by Gio.
He just went, here it is. I'm going to throw it as hard as I can. See if you can hit it. You can't, so sit down. Such a young right-hander with a huge arm. And the question for the Sox, as they watch him develop, can he get the secondary pitches over? If that's the case, what a factor he's going to be. And at the moment, at least, they're considering him for the starting rotation.
Breaking ball, high, can of corn. 2 down. Yeah, a good buddy of mine the other day on the practice tee, I was hitting some balls, and he comes up to me and he says, "Hawk, I want you to look at this video." So he shows me this video of a friend of his young son, 13 years old. Big 13-year-old kid. And I'm watching him swing the bat. Watch him swing the bat. Watch him swing the bat. I handed it back to him, and he said, "What do you think?" I said, "Good." He said, "What would you tell him?" I said, "Nothing."
Not yet.
Nothing. If I was going to tell him anything, just, hey, go out and have fun.
Just keep swinging it. See what happens.
Probably the most powerful looking 13-year-old swing I've ever seen. It made me think of a guy we're all going to miss so much watching this year. Big Papi. What a hitter.
Well, I'm not sure he necessarily had that swing when he was with Minnesota, and they wanted to change everything that he did with Minnesota and didn't fit their blueprint of the players they wanted, much to the delight, by the way, of the Boston Red Sox. But what a hitter he became.
And the Chicago White Sox getting him out of that division.
Yeah.
He gone. Yes. 1, 2, 3, couple of strikeouts, and we'll go to the bottom of the 6th. Pitching change here in the bottom of the 6th inning.
Carl Edwards takes the hill, acquired from the Texas Rangers. There's a lot of former Texas Rangers on the Cubs. There you look at the numbers this spring. 3 games, 3.0 ERA, 5 strikeouts in 3 innings. He's always had a good arm. He is probably considered a lanky right-hander because he's very thin, but he's always been able to throw it well. And last year, at times, he proved a very valuable member of that bullpen.
So here's Abreu. Takes a breaking ball strike. He is grounded to third and fouled out to first.
We've got some changes, and we're going to go through them as the regulars have departed this one. Most of them, anyway.
That way, they'll get their couple of bats in and beat the traffic.
That's it. Last year with the Cubs, 36 appearances for Edwards. 0-1, 3.75 ERA, but 52 strikeouts in 36 innings. When you see that, you know the stuff is really good.
Threw that one right by him.
This is supposed to be low and away. Instead it goes up and in, and sometimes you miss your spot by 3 feet. Turns into gold for you. Other times it turns into something in the seats.
Ball hit sharply.
Well, Jason Benetti, who normally does the spring games, doing some basketball this weekend, and I know he appreciates it, as do I. It was nice of Hawk to interrupt what had been a lovely spring. And with the tournament right in his doorstep at Bay Hill, he came up to do a game, get to see the boys. The weather is gorgeous, and I know that Jason and I thank you for being here. I know that our fans are delighted letting you call a game and hearing you call a game on St. Patrick's Day.
Thank you. And I've been watching too. You know, it's amazing what that MLB network can do.
No, it's terrific. I mean, you get to catch up and literally see everybody anywhere all spring, which is really entertaining.
You know, last year was the first spring I missed in 56 years. And you know, when the spring was over, I was sitting in my family room one day, and I realized that on my iPad, okay, I could learn as much and see as much more on my iPad than I could if I was on site.
There's no doubt. The technology is unbelievable, and you get an opportunity to see highlights, to see game action, to I mean, see everything you need to see to catch you up on any game played anywhere in the major leagues.
Or last year.
Yeah, it's terrific. It's just terrific.
12,972 in the house. That's a sellout. Yeah, if I want to watch Moncada, for an example, who I've never seen, you know, which I did. I watched him swing the bat, I don't know, 30, 40 times on my iPad. I'm here. I see him 2 or 3, 4 times.
You know, and he's got a chance to be awfully good.
There's the walk.
So that is going to be it for Todd Frazier, who's going to leave this ball game for a pinch runner as Todd's afternoon is over.
Well, Todd has got a big responsibility this year that he understands. He's got a lot of young players. He's going to have a lot of young players around him. He's one of those guys, to me, you know, when you hit 40 home runs and driving 98 or right at 100, he drove to 98 last year. And the way he plays defense, that's one guy you can't get rid of.
No, I think that He's a very good man for the club. He would have loved to have hit for a higher average. His job is plain and simple. Drive in runs.
That's it.
Drive in runs. Hit some big late inning home runs, which he did.
Yep.
I mean, it was a disappointing year for him in some respects, but when you look at 40-98, you say, well, if that's a disappointing year, it's not all that bad. There's a lot of guys that would take half of those numbers and be fairly happy with it.
Well, Chris Bryant, the MVP last year, hit 39 home runs and drove in 102. One less than Todd and drove in 4 more. Of course, he hit a lot more.
He did that. Adam Engel has come on to pinch run. He's another candidate for a center field spot. And Michael Kopech was sitting anywhere from 100 to 102 miles an hour that last inning. It's a nice place to sit.
They got him at 110 earlier this spring.
That was from that take a running start type of approach, which I don't think they're going to allow you to do that on the hill. It's a nice idea and all, but
when you can throw it 110 miles an hour, I don't care where it's coming. That's getting there in a hurry.
Yeah, his arm is unbelievably good, and he will learn because he's really young, just a bundle of talent. He's going to learn that the name of the avocation is pitching, and he will eventually figure that one out.
Breaking ball.
So Edwards decides to throw a good curveball, puts it in a perfect spot. Nice block by Contreras, a converted third baseman, who also is going to get a look in left field. That's one thing that Joe Maddon will do consistently with his ball club. He's not afraid to play a lot of different people in just about any different position.
That was Don Shula, great football coach for the Dolphins. That was his philosophy, and his forte was putting guys in the right spot.
And one of the real bright spots last year, in a year that there weren't a whole lot of bright spots, but the man you're looking at, Tim Anderson, burst on the scene. There's an example of a guy figuring it out. Last 52 games, hit over 300. Look at the on-base percentage. Slugging, walks, strikeouts, very similar. He's going to do that a while, but eventually he's going to hit 20 home runs. He's going to do that year after year. He's very strong, still trying to figure it out. When he does, he will torment a whole lot of American League pitchers.
Nice play. Ball came up on him, and that'll retire to the side. We are into the 7th, trailing 6-1. And tomorrow night on CSN, the Hawks wrap up their road trip in Canada. It's an original 6 matchup against the Maple Leafs. So coverage begins at 5:30 with Chevy Blackhawks pregame live or stream live on the NBC Sports app.
Every game now, a big game. You want to secure that #1 seed. And the Blackhawks knocking at the door to accomplish that. It's been, all things considered, yet another excellent year for the Hawks.
Well, to me, the Blackhawks, when they're healthy, are the most exciting team in sports, period. All sports. And it's hard to beat playoff hockey.
The intensity is unbelievable. And for sheer entertainment, it's a long way to go to win that cup. Probably the most difficult of all of the trophies for winning it all is the Stanley Cup.
I don't think there's any question about it. It's not even close.
No, it wears you down. The hitting is fierce. It's just really wonderfully entertaining.
Fouls that one down.
Jay is going to play some center field, but he's probably going to be in a platoon system with Albert Almora.
Jay has walked twice and scored twice. He gone.
Well, if Kopech gets that one in the neighborhood, there's not too many people going to hit him, because when you can throw 102 and then you can follow it up with a slider that just busts it down and in, most hitters will tell you that's not terribly fair.
That's inside.
Ian Happ, a former #1 draft pick out of Cincinnati, having a big spring. He's an infielder by trade who can play some outfield and swing the bat very well. This is another promising young player. They took advantage of a #1 draft pick, and Happ is making the most of it. Right now, no place to play him, however.
And that's up high. Two down.
We'll take a look at another powerhouse fastball upstairs. Especially left-hand hitters. If you can't lay off that and you have an uppercut swing, as Happ does, you're not going to catch up to it. It's impossible. It's too hard. Chesney Young for spring training. Not bad.
Here's where young hitters can really impress the manager, in this case, Joe Madden. And Kopech's just blowing everybody away, and you come up and all of a sudden you put one on him. Two and 0 count.
Did it matter to you who you faced in spring training? Were you looking to face a certain type of pitcher depending on where you were in spring training?
You know, Steve, that's well put, because it changes. When I was young, going to my first major league spring training, I'd rather face young, hard-throwing pitchers. You know, to face the veterans who knew how to pitch, they just shoved that bat you know where. To young, strong right-handed hitters, right-handed pitchers with a good breaking ball, good slider. Because back in those days, they allowed me to go 7-8 innings. So as time went on, it got to be where I wanted to face the veterans. Well, the guys I was going to face during the season.
I also probably feel you'd like to face some guys with better control than taking one off the elbow in late in the spring.
Well, the one guy that I'm telling you turned out, at that time I was 6'2", 190. And just coming off 40 home runs in the Eastern League, 140 RBIs. And I had to face Ryan Duran. And I was leading off the inning.
Not a fun time.
The last pitch he threw went up in the press box. He turned me from 6'2" to 5'5".
We're just trying to show you that occasionally one gets away.
That's right.
Because he knew, being a Yankee pitcher, you being a Red Sox hitter, he was probably going to have to face you in key situations. He wanted to leave you with something heading into the season.
Well, Rocky Calavito, who I love, Rock was a tough guy too. He told me the most scary thing, the toughest thing he ever had to do in his whole life was face Ryan Duran in the shadows at Yankee Stadium. Ryan Duran wore glasses that looked like Coke bottles out there. And I walk up to the plate. It was a hot day there in Bradenton. And he gets ready to pitch. He looks in, calls the trainer out. He says, "Here, take these. It's too hot." Takes those glasses off.
Which he couldn't see anyway.
That's back through the middle. So Chesney Young picks up the first hit off Kopech.
Just remember going to Palm Springs at the time, and they were the California Angels at the time. They played in Palm Springs. We'd go down there a few games to play them when I was with the San Francisco Giants. And Nolan Ryan would be pitching. He didn't have much control in the spring, but he threw 8 million miles an hour. And you looked in that lineup and noticed that there was no Bonds, no McCovey, no Mays, no. You wonder, well, nobody wanted to face him in the spring because he hit 3 or 4 of our guys.
Yeah, and that was on purpose. That was.
I know. His control wasn't that bad.
Well, he hit me in the neck one spring.
Yeah, that's not
over
good.
in St. Petersburg when he was with the Mets.
Ooh, boy.
But at that time, he was, he couldn't get a curveball over, and he was a one-pitch pitcher, and he was all over the place with the bat. There he goes. So he'll pick up the stolen base. So it was unintentional, but it still hurt.
Oh,
even though it was unintentional.
Gets a good break on Kopech, who at this point of his career is not worried about slide steps or slowing anything down, changing things. And I think that's one of the things Giovanni Soto's going out there to talk to him about. But you don't want his attention divided at this stage of his career. He'll get to the point, especially if he's in there late in games, he'll get to the point where he'll be very concerned about the base stealers, just not at this point.
Well, you just mentioned a guy didn't care about guys stealing bases. And there was another great pitcher in the Hall of Fame, Tom Seaver. They didn't care about guys stealing bases because they knew he wasn't going to score.
Maddox, Seaver,
yeah,
Dwight Gooden. None of them really cared about the stolen base at all because they didn't feel anybody'd ever get another hit in that inning. Candelario is one of the top 10 prospects for the Cubs and has been for a while. They've given him a few looks at third base. He's still young enough where he's got a big upside, but again, with wall-to-wall talent in their minor league system and no designated hitter in the National League, there's only so many spots before you have to start thinking about trading some guys.
Six and 0 for their guys, 1-7-0 for our guys. They scored 3 in the third and 3 in the fifth. We scored 1 in the second. So Steve was talking about earlier, you start running after that fastball off Kopech up there, you grab some bench.
No, zero, less than zero chance.
Here you go. Strikes out the side. He now has 5 strikeouts in his 2 innings of work. 7th inning stretch, we trailed by 5.
As we move along in this ball game, we've got the man who is charged with putting just about everything together, and we've seen the fruits of his labors. And Rick Hahn, and one of the men he acquired, we saw the last couple of innings, Michael Kopech. Do you think he needs to improve on his velocity, or does it look okay to you?
You know what? They didn't take great swings off him, Steve, and you know, Michael is obviously a very intriguing prospect here. He's going to show some highlights here on the screen, I see. You see a little nasty slider plus velo up in the zone. These guys are having trouble catching up with, and even mixing a couple of decent changeups today. You know, he's 20 years old. And when he gets here, we think he's going to be pretty special, but we're going to take our time and make sure he's ready before he does get here.
Well, you also acquired 3 other players from Boston, and obviously a whole lot of people realize who they were. Moncada certainly might be the pick of the litter as far as those 4. Tell us about the other 2, because they're getting a little less pub than the top 2.
You know, I do think a year from now, a lot of White Sox fans who follow the minor leagues, as well as some of the sites that tout the prospects, are going to be talking more about Luis Basabe, the switch-hitting center fielder we acquired in this deal. He's an intriguing talent. We've enjoyed watching him over on the backfields, and I guess any White Sox fans who stayed up till about midnight for the second game of our doubleheader the others on Saturday night got to see 2 at-bats from Basabe in that 14-run 9th inning. But he's a talented kid, good defender, power, can run, and he'll start the season in A-ball, and we'll probably be talking more about him in a year. The last arm we received in that deal was right-handed reliever Victor Diaz. He's got the ability to light the gun and mix in a nice slider, and you know, even though he does have a 3-pitch mix, he's always been used as a reliever, and I think that's at least how we're going to start using him in Winston-Salem to start the year.
The other big trade was Adam Eaton to the Nationals, and a whole lot of people, I'm sure, looked at that deal and said, okay, well, you got 3 arms back, and Giolito was the one that most people who follow baseball know him. Tell us a little bit about the other 2 pitchers, and especially Lopez, and what you think is his upside.
You know, we were probably every bit as excited about Ronaldo Lopez as we were about Lucas Giolito, and thrilled to get both of them as well as Dane Dunning in that Eaton deal. Giolito was known as the quote-unquote #1 pitching prospect in baseball when you received him, and as a first-round pick had a higher profile than Lopez. However, Ronaldo has himself a 3-pitch mix of plus velocity, plus slider, and a great feel for a changeup. Since he's been here now for a month with Coop, he's of course played around with a cutter, as is a rite of passage around these parts, and he's been mixing that in games recently and impressing with it. He's was used both in the rotation and the bullpen in Washington. We view him personally as a starter, and with the ability to potentially be another front-end guy here over the coming years. Dane Dunning was a first-rounder, a sandwich pick last year, a fellow that our amateur scouts, Nick Hostetler, and our amateur scouts very much had high on our board. We did talk about possibly taking him when we took Zach Birdie, but ultimately decided to go with Zach. And we were pleased to be able to have Dane a part of this deal as well. Again, another, in our opinion, mid to potentially front end of a rotation type starting pitching prospect.
Well, we're not going to give a percentage of what you've accomplished through the rebuild and what you have left, but it just seems like, let's use halfway through, because you still have some tradable commodities. And although nobody's making any blockbuster trades now, when do you see that loosening up a touch?
You know, I think since we made the Sale and Eaton deals on back-to-back days, we've been pretty transparent about the fact that we do feel we're closer to the start of this process than we are to the end of it. However, we are trying to be aggressive in certain areas to get some similar type deals done. That said, as you rightfully point out, a lot of those things don't tend to happen in spring training. Guys get to camp, look at their clubs, and decide where there may potentially be holes, and tend to try to fill those internally through their own system as opposed to through large blockbuster type deals. We're not ruling out something like that in the coming weeks, but it's relatively unprecedented in recent years. So in reality, these deals tend to kick up again in earnest a little bit closer to June or July, closer to the deadline.
Now this will be interesting, because it looked like it hit the bat and
it hit the end of the bat.
And
call it foul.
Consequently, he would be out. So I'm kind of wondering. Hits the handle of the bat. So look, it's either a fair ball and he's out, or it hit him and he's on first. I'm not sure that you could really have much of anything go the other way here.
Yeah, but the biggest thing in that shot we just saw right there is something that I have absolutely loved, is the fact I've seen today some of our hitters, when they get 2 strikes, choking up on the bat.
Yeah.
That's been a point of emphasis. That's been a point of emphasis since we got down here. Ricky Renteria and Todd Steverson, our hitting coach, have made it clear that we want to see a uniformed approach. You see it right there in that swing. Guys are off the knob a little bit and trying to put the ball in play with 2 strikes.
Well, it's common sense. It's math, really. And most of the things you can boil down to math. It's, you know, the longer the bat, the longer the swing. Shorter the bat, shorter the swing. Shorter the swing, the faster the swing. Mm-hmm. So it's going to cut down on the strikeouts, hopefully.
And I think it might have been Avi the other day, I think, went yard with the 2-strike approach. So it's not going to necessarily change the production. You're not just looking to dink the thing in. You're just looking, as you said, to have a little bit of shorter swing.
I think Joe Madden can't quite figure out how this exactly worked out, how he's not out.
Well, by that shot, he's supposed to be out.
you would think so.
Spring training for the umpires, too.
It
That's
is
right.
that. We're everybody, but we're moving in, and let's talk a little bit about the configuration of spring training with the World Baseball Classic, the additional week, and you guys have moved Carlos Rodon very slowly, where he still hasn't pitched in a regular game. Do you see that coming up here pretty soon?
Yeah, he'll start Sunday in Tempe against the Angels. We did take advantage of the fact that we had an extra week down here, thanks to the WBC, to bring guys along on a little bit different pace. And Carlos was the most publicly discussed pace that we had. Obviously, we had to adjust for Quintana and for Gonzalez being gone and needing to get up to 60 pitches in the WBC when they left. So each individual schedule has been tailored to the guy, and since we had a little bit of extra time and we're expecting Carlos to be able to sort of take that next step to that close to, if not at, 200-inning pitcher for the first time in his career, we wanted to make sure he had all the time he needed to get ready this season.
You and the entire front office, along with obviously our training staff and everybody else involved, realizing that there's a rule change that could have an effect, and that is a shortened stint on the disabled list. And this is the first year that's going to apply. How do you see it figuring out? Because instead of the 15 days, now it moves to 10, and that's going to create a few more difficulties and more evaluation problems. So what do you see, and how do you see that playing out over the course of a championship season?
Well, I like it from the standpoint that you're not going to put yourself in a position where you're playing short for 3-4 days in a row, guessing whether a guy's going to get better. You guys being in the clubhouse and talking to the guys know how often that really happens over the course of a season where, hey, we want to stay away from this guy because his arm's barking a little bit or he's got a little hamstring here. But you'd be thinking 3-4 days it might be better. And you'd take that. In the past, you've gone down that path because you don't want to lose the guy for 2 weeks because it's not a 2-week injury. It's maybe a 6-7 day injury. In this new context, I think you're going to be more inclined to get guys on the list, which is going to probably be best for their long-term health. And obviously, you're going to get them back a little bit quicker if, in fact, it does turn out to be a shorter-term injury. So I do like it. I suppose there's the potential for some manipulation by some clubs because in certain parts of the schedule where you may have off days lined up properly, you could conceivably put a starter on the DL, skip that next start, and have him be able to make it when his turn came back up around again and manipulate your roster that way. But I think fundamentally it's going to help us from a health standpoint, keep guys healthier for the long run.
Well, it's going to bring a little parity to teams to the minor league systems. That's what it's going to do because the guys with the stronger, on a 15-day deal, guys with the stronger farm systems have an edge.
Yep.
With a 10, it brings everybody into more of an arena, so to speak.
No, definitely.
And agents are going to be upset about that, as you all know.
I'm just going to smile and have some water.
They do have a chance to get upset about quite a few things. And as far as many of the rule changes, one of the things I don't think is going to affect much is the idea of, no throwing of 4 pitches to get 4 balls again. I don't see that as being a great accelerant of baseball games this year. But are there any other rules that really will make a marked difference on the game of baseball 2017?
I don't think there's going to be a ton this year. There was a lot that we talked about and that I think was negotiated as part of this process. We're going perhaps to a 26-man roster at one point was discussed. Having limits on the size of September call-up rosters was discussed. But in the end, it's going to be nice catch. In the end, it's going to be a pretty similar type game to what we've grown accustomed to, I think.
Nice play by Candelario, who has been one of their top prospects for a while, and as he gets closer to the stands, he gets an idea of where he is and puts it away. That is a nice, strong play. Happy with the health of the ball club to this point?
Knock on wood. Knock on wood, yeah. Obviously, Charlie Tilson, unfortunately, is going to have to start the season on the DL. Had a stress reaction in his foot when he was coming back from the hamstring injury, and you feel for that kid, but fortunately we caught it early enough, we feel, before it became a stress fracture, which would have been a more serious issue, and we'll get Charlie right and get him back out there hopefully sometime in mid-April. Minea the other day had to leave the game, had a little issue with his groin and abdomen. He's not going to be throwing now for the next 2 weeks, and then we'll reevaluate where we're at then. But other than that, given that we had 60-plus guys in camp, and those are the only 2 we're concerned about at this point, another tribute to Herm Schneider and his staff.
Well, I was getting ready to say you got the best in the business for that guy.
No doubt about that.
All right. We're into the 8th, trailing 6-1.
live with MLB. White Sox Spring Training Baseball is always live with MLB.com at bat, the mobile app. Stay connected all spring with radio broadcasts, video highlights, stats, news, and more. Download MLB.com at bat today. It's your #1 app for live baseball. And we still have Rick Hahn with us, the general manager. And Rick, one of the things where you didn't know if you've had an open competition, but now, of course, it seems that we do, and that's center field. And talk a little bit about Jacob May and the rest of the candidates.
It's an interesting spot to be in, as obviously we had hoped that Charlie Tilson, as we talked about, was going to be healthy enough to be the opening day center fielder. That not being the case, it's opened the door for guys like Leury Garcia, who's been out there some, Jacob May, as you mentioned, Adam Engel, and Peter Borges, who's here on a minor league invite and has impressed in camp. The thing we like about certainly May, Engel, and Borges is that it does provide a plus defender out there. Now, May and Engel are both kids, haven't spent a ton of time active at AAA. Initially, you would not want to necessarily throw them into the mix opening day, but they've held their own so far in camp, and we've had that conversation. With Borges, you got a veteran who's been out there before who, with the combination between him and Leury, could probably hold down that position at least until Charlie comes back, whenever that may be. But it's nice to have plus defensive options to choose from, especially as this pitching staff, some of these younger pitchers get to the big leagues. We're going to want to be able to catch the ball behind them. We don't want them having to, it's hard enough to succeed in the big leagues without having to give away extra outs and throw extra pitches. And certainly, at least in center field right now, we're feeling pretty good about some of those options, including Charlie once he's back.
Well, you're starting off in one area, in my opinion, without question, the strongest part of your ball club is going to be your bullpen. Last year, you started off pretty good in bullpen. You started off 23-10. You had a 1.69 ERA in April. You only had one off day, and that blew them out.
Yep.
So you got 4 this year, 4 off days in April. So you're going to have a situation there. And there's a line shot base hit. There, and that ball gets by him. But there are some good arms down in that bullpen.
You know, you're right. Not only did we get taxed a little bit last year, but losing Patricia and Putnam.
That was because they got overworked in April.
They got overworked, and then once they were gone, and guys started getting elevated a little bit, Matt Elbers gets moved a little deeper in ball games in a little more difficult role, and things started going sideways for us in the bullpen.
Yourself, if a bullpen doesn't get it done for you, you're going to lose.
Yep.
So, that was one thing I was always talking with Robin about. There's nothing you can do because, we didn't have a whole bunch down in, like you have now. We didn't have a whole bunch of depth. Mm-hmm. Now you got some depth.
It's certainly something across the board that we're trying to address here as part of this process, and that's being insulated as much as we can at as many positions as we can be. Now, because like you said, we started off 23-10, and whether schedule, fatigue, injuries, bad luck, whatever, we didn't have the depth to survive that. We didn't have the depth to maintain it once we started taking on water, and the next time we're in that position to be at the top of the division here, we want to be able to have the depth requisite to be able to finish strong not only through the course of the season but into October.
You have one other position on the field where you have a number of candidates and some quality choices, especially with the departure of Brett Lawrie. Second base becomes more of an open contest. Who do you see right now as the leg up guys?
As we sit here today, it's going to be some combination, I would think, of Saladino and Sanchi over there. Leury Garcia would be in that mix as well, given his versatility. I mentioned him in the outfield as well, so he's a valuable guy as a switch hitter for Ricky as he's playing matchups or pinch running and defensive substitutions. The kid standing out there right now, once he's ready, which is, he's got 200 plate appearances right now above A-ball in Yoan Moncada, but we think he's going to be a pretty special one long term, and once his development phases at the minors are complete and the last element is needed in Chicago, we'll bring him up here and expect to see him standing over there for many years to come.
Let me ask you one kind of technical question about a trade that you hadn't had to worry about in years past, but you might want something included, and our fans, I don't think, understand. You can trade now international spaces, international dollars, when you make a deal with another team. Explain what that entails and how you use it.
Well, in general, teams are limited to how much they can spend internationally without incurring a fine. if you acquire these slots, we're each assigned slots based on inverse order of finish, and you're allowed to acquire another team's slots or portions thereof of their total pool. That allows you to go a little bit deeper over your original pool without incurring a penalty. So you do see clubs either accumulating more elements to increase their pool, other slots from other clubs, or just blowing past and paying the tax.
But if you do increase that, then certainly you're stockpiling when you see it's going to be a really good year for these international free agents. How is our situation at this point with the money we have for international slots?
You know, we're in the process of finishing up the 16-17 period right now. The new period will turn over July 2nd. Marco Patti, who's been running our international operations, our international scouting operations for the last couple of years, I feel has done a fantastic job. We've gotten to the point where you got to remember when Marco took over that we were essentially barren down there from an infrastructure standpoint and from a just access to talent standpoint. We've reinforced Marco with some resources in terms of boots on the ground, as well as allocation of more budget money towards signing international players. And although it takes, with these 16, 17-year-old international players, it tends to take them 6-7 years when things go right to bear fruit at the big league level. We feel like we're starting to get that critical mass down in A-ball that's going to keep building up and reaping the benefits from that. But those are the kind of things that, look, ultimately we work in pro sports. We're judged on wins and losses at the big league level. But these type of under-the-hood improvements that aren't quite as sexy and don't get much publicity are the kind of things... are the kind of ingredients that are important to be able to build something sustainable.
Lost in the shuffle with all of the really good young players acquired in the 2 trades that you made is the #1 draft pick from last year. And when you look at Zach Collins and what he can do and what he did in college, what do you think he's got to work on to be one and evaluate both his offensive prowess and defensively, will he be able to stick behind the plate?
We fully believe Zach Collins is going to be a big league catcher. We think he has the ability to stick behind the plate. Now, that is the one area where he's going to need the most development. He's going to need the repetition. He's going to need the ability to work with various types of pitchers with plus stuff that he isn't necessarily used to in college, and game planning for certain games using a little more sophisticated methods. Obviously, the catching position's a hugely important one and contributing both offensively and defensively. And although Zach has a very advanced approach at the plate, and the bat is probably ready for a higher assignment that he's going to start with and going to Winston-Salem, we're going to take our time on the defensive side and develop the catching side of him, hopefully get that catching up to the bat and allow his progress to be dictated by how quickly that comes along.
I was talking with John Orton yesterday. He said he's going to be fine.
Johnny believes in this kid.
Going to be fine.
I think you're right. I think Johnny's right. And tell you what, the kid fully believes it too. Going back to the draft, when he sat down with Nick Hostetler, he's not going to like that I remember this, but when he sat down with Nick Hostetler, he said something to the effect of, Mr. Hostetler, if it turns out that I can't catch in the big leagues, I'll give you the bonus money back.
Oh.
That's believing in yourself right there.
Well, the good part about it is he said he would split it between Hawk and I, which
that's right. That was between the fine print.
I thought was terrific.
You framed it perfectly about Zach because of the fact when you get guys in the major leagues and major league arms, it's a little bit different catching than it is at college level. I don't care if you win everything down at the college level. A little bit different.
Yeah.
That ball's got that late movement. It's getting there about 6 inches quicker.
Now, it'll serve him well to spend a little bit of time catching Mr. Kopech for a while.
Kopech and Birdie and Lopez.
Yep.
I mean, you look down, when you watch these guys, and I've said a number of times, being with the White Sox, going all the way back to spring training of 1973 when I saw Rich Gossage and Terry Forster, saw Asai Acosta, Bart Johnson, who people don't forget through the daylights out of the ball, as well as Chris Knapp and a couple of others. I've never seen a collection of arms in White Sox uniforms in spring training that threw harder with more movement than the guys that we had in camp this year. I mean, it was something to behold.
And you like seeing that secondary stuff, too, of Zach Birdie's slider, or what Kopech was featuring today on the slider, the breaking ball there. Again, they're not finished products by any stretch of the imagination, but you got a lot of good raw ingredients to like. one thing that I would hold this organization up. This predates me, goes back to when Kenny was farm director and Coop was the minor league coordinator. This has been a very solid organization over the last couple of decades in developing pitching. And they've gotten on those backfields right now. Buddy Bell and Chris Getz and our guys back there have some pretty good raw ingredients, especially on the pitching side right now. Now we're going to keep working to get it the same way on the position player side, but we like where this is headed.
Rick, thank you so much for the time and information, buddy.
You bet. Anytime. And let me just say, Jakey and Charlie, be good to Mama.
Okay.
Got a new Cub pitcher coming on. It's Ryan Williams, old number 87, on for the third time. He's given up nothing, as you can see. So getting an opportunity today to extend what has been to this point a very good spring. Been all Cubs today, 7-1, although teams tied in hits at 7. Join the 2017 Sox Pride Club for exclusive ticket offers, membership gifts, game day opportunities, ballpark tours, and the MLB.com game day audio for their computer and more. Visit prideclub.com to join today.
Pitching change for the Cubs. The right-hander Ryan Williams. And if you have noticed maybe a little slight different look that my partner has given you guys today on camera, he is a guy who this morning, he's an annuity to his dermatologist, let's put it that way.
I am making sure that he can live in a palatial estate, drive a wonderful car, and vacation any chance he wants.
That's exactly right.
Such is the one of the drawbacks of living in Arizona is lots of sun. And folks, just remember, when it comes around and you're going to have an opportunity to sit in the sun, please use liberal sunscreen or pay a big price. As my partner can tell you, we have kind of the same situation.
Yep.
And they keep cutting off parts, and hopefully some of them will grow back.
Well, you know, when I was growing up, we didn't know what sunscreen was. In fact, we used to put lemon juice and peroxide on our hair to turn it a little bit, you know, as teenagers. And
baby oil and iodine.
Exactly.
Yeah, really good. Works well now.
7-7-0 for them, 1-7-1 for us. Ariano takes the strike. Yeah, this, you know, Dayton Moore, you got to give Dayton Moore. Actually, you got to give John Schuerholz a ton of credit, who was at Kansas City, and Dayton Moore was under him, and then John went to Atlanta as shortstop. Scotty, is they have more or less or they more or less set the model, made the model for current day baseball, because baseball has changed, and for several reasons. Agents being one of them, don't want their guys. They try to improve and extend the shelf life of their players, especially the pitchers. They don't want them pitching 200 innings a year. They want them pitching as few innings as they can to improve the shelf life. And Dayton was one of the first general managers in current day baseball to understand that you better have yourself a good bullpen, and that's what he built, and that's what sustained. The biggest job of a manager today is try to create a club and a pitching staff that his manager can manage a 6-inning game. And that's what Dayton did.
I was going to say, Dayton was able to do it when that bullpen was Holland at the back end.
They had 4 guys out there.
Yeah, I mean, it was just, they were, if you had the lead late, and it made things a little easier. It's never easy to manage. It made it easier for Ned Yost. And then, as so often happens, Wade Davis had some arm problems. Greg Holland had some arm problems. And now Herrera has the tail end, and they're looking for guys to kind of build it up in the middle to get to him.
Well, you know, they were lucky, though, in the respect that they've been almost 5 years with no injuries in that bullpen.
It's true.
That's not going to happen.
And then all of a sudden they started to get them. But what both of those teams have in common, both of those teams did, was pretty much of a complete teardown and then rebuild. And now, for the Cubs, it was a different story. They made some good trades. That one lifted and well hit to left field, way back and gone.
Nicky Delmonico.
Got up in what little wind there is, and there's not much, and took it into the bullpen in left field. So Delmonico's first at bat turns into gold, narrows the gap to 7-2, and Williams greeted rather rudely with the second batter he faces.
So here is Adam Engel. So we were talking about him earlier. Jacob May, who Aaron Rowan loves both these guys. So both of them are going to be players.
Engel set the Arizona Fall League on fire. Pretty good player, Jacob May, with the advantage of great speed. Well, as a guy that can swing the bat from both sides of the plate.
But the big issue right now for us, as we said, you know, this is the 9th year that Steve and I have been together. That ball hit high into center field. That's a can of corn. And with the exception of this year, every expectation we had was high coming out of spring training towards being a divisional title winner.
Yep. Or
certainly a strong contender. And I sort of like this feeling. It's the first time in 9 years now that we haven't been in that spot. Because it gives us a little more flexibility and a little more patience, a little better temperament. Because we know what we're going to be watching. We know we're going to be watching a ton of talent out there. And maybe not opening day, but before the season's over, some of these young kids are going to get enough at bats, enough innings pitched down at the minor league level to come up and show us what they can do. And that's what's going to be fun and enjoyable.
Well, Rick is looking at a couple of teams, and he certainly knows Kansas City because he's seen them a lot. And the Cubs.
Cubs are another model.
Well, they went to complete teardown. With the Cubs, they had the added advantage of having a few bucks so they could delve into the free agent market maybe a year early, but John Lester came up when he came up and forced Theo Epstein and Jed Hoyer to accelerate their rebuilding because they were looking at a 5-year before they were really good contending. It happened in their 4th year. They almost won it all. Of course, last year in the 5th year, they did win it all. They were very competitive in their 3rd year. So when Lester became available, very familiar to Theo Epstein in his Boston days, he felt that he was going to go out, spend a little money on him ahead of time. And then, of course, free agent John Lackey, a free agent Jason Hayward, but filled in with some guys that he traded veterans to get. I mean, a free agent Ben Zobrist, yes, but he traded Jeff Samardzija, and he got back Addison Russell, and that's going to hold them in good stead for many years. Not to mention, when you finish down, when you're in a rebuild, a complete rebuild, where you're going to be bad for a few years, you get high draft choices. That yielded Chris Bryant at number 2, who was the College Player of the Year. Tremendous draft pick. Worked out exceptionally well for him.
Matt Davidson, young man with a huge upside and just can't quite get over the hump.
Kansas City, another team that had a lot of number 1 draft picks, high number 1s, because they were bad for quite some time. And so Hosmer's a number 1, Moustakas a number 1. Then they made a trade, trading Greinke to Milwaukee, and they got Kane and they got Alcides Escobar. So 25% of their starting 8 came with 1 trade.
There's only 3 ways you can rebuild. And if you're going to have a teardown, you got to have some good drafts, because you're going to get a chance to have some good picks. And as Davidson walks,
good drafts, good player development,
or you got to have
a few bucks.
You got to have some good trades, because you're going to have a couple of pieces every year that you can trade off your ball club. It'll help contending club. Or you got to spend a ton of money. Those are the 3 ways that you got to rebuild if you want to tear it down.
And another thing that you've been a proponent of, being a former general manager, as well as a guy been around the game a long time, your scouts have to scout your organization probably better than they scout anybody else's.
Well, if they can't, you're going to lose.
You're going to trade the wrong guys consistently.
And there have been some clubs that did that. Yeah. If you can't evaluate your own players with a sense of confidence, you're going to lose. It's just that simple.
I was going to say, you should be able to evaluate them better than anybody else, because you're looking at them every day.
Well, it's tough. That's one reason I very seldom talk to people about their own players, because every one of them, if they draft high or whatever, it's going to be another Mickey Mantle, another Tom Seaver.
He's going to be a star, right?
Yeah.
And then you wind up making a trade for one of those guys who's going to be a star, and they, if you're trading for years with the Atlanta Braves,
well,
and the Los Angeles Dodgers to a certain extent, you're always getting the next great, and you can fill in the blank, next great first baseman, next great third baseman, whatever the case may be. And for some reason, they seem to keep the Steve Garveys of the world, and they trade you the Greg Brocks of the world.
High, long way to go. Can't quite make the adjustment. Yeah, the Atlanta Braves were famous for that.
Well, what they would do is
that was Fugosi.
They would keep, they'd keep John Smoltz. They'd keep obviously Glavine. They'd keep Avery. They signed Maddox. They'd keep those guys, and they would trade you, the Kevin Blankenships and Kevin Kaufmans and Ruben Quevedos, and they'd trade you the guys that never quite got there, but they were going to be great. Fugosi was the best, by the way, at extolling the virtues of his own player, and then never seemed to work out in the deal.
Harold Hill. Fugosi could sell some snake oil.
He could sell some of that.
I miss Jimmy. What a great guy.
Great evaluator of talent.
One of the best. One of the best, really.
Only time he had to give up some people. He had to give up some people in the Mark Teixeira deal that he made.
Started to go to the first. Meanwhile, that'll retire the side, so we have a mild threat. Can't do anything. We're into the ninth, trailing 7-2. a reminder coming up tonight on CSN. The Bulls are looking to even the season series with the Wizards in a quick trip to Washington. Coverage begins at 5:30 with Bulls pregame live and streaming on the NBC Sports app. Another one of the good arms come in to pitch.
It's kind of nice to see these guys come out of that bullpen. This is Zach Birdie, number 26 in the first round, and he can get it up there.
Seven-2 Cubs. We took the lead, 1 in the second. They scored 3 in the third, 3 in the fifth, and 1 in the eighth. One out. If you're just tuning in, those 3 runs in the third inning came off Derek Holland. With 1 out, he walked LaStella, he walked Jay, and then Kyle Schwarber hit an absolute monster home run. That's one of the longer ones to right field we've seen here since we've been here.
Yeah, power is not his problem.
No. Gap out there in right center. Ian Happ. Ian Happ's been to the plate 1 time, struck out.
It's a beautiful day for baseball. Very little, if any, wind. Temperature in the 90s. That one sliced foul. It's the kind of day it is. Not only sun splashed, but a little warm, especially when you look around this ballpark and realize there's not one aspect of it that's in the shade. So bring your umbrellas if you're coming out to Camelback Ranch at Glendale. Gorgeous facility, housing both the Dodgers and our Sox.
Ball made a deep pitch on him right there.
Backdoor slider, and Happ just frozen.
That's going to freeze a lot of them.
If you can keep it there, you're in good shape. We'll watch it again. Watch a late movement. Starts outside, and then not much you can do with that. Good job of framing it. But that ball had most of the plate.
There's a perfect example right there of what we were talking about earlier and just transposing it into that at bat. If, in fact, Happ was thinking mechanics or thinking being dangerous, approach. If he's thinking mechanics, he can't take it like you just described. If he's thinking approach, he can tip his cap and go back to the dugout and not even worry about it.
Well, for him, that's a situation. You get a guy on the mound, he's a youngster, he realizes he's throwing 100 miles an hour. So you're up there with a guy throwing 100. Last thing you're looking for is a backdoor slider. So if you get it, you're going to sit down anyway. I mean, it's one of those things. Nice job, young man, and we'll see you next time.
That'll take himself a nice inning right there for Birdie. So we'll go to the bottom of the ninth. We need 5 to tie.
So the
This is our third game from spring training that we televised, and we're going to have 7 more. But the next 4 are going to be against the Giants on Monday. Then the Reds on Thursday, the Athletics on Friday, only to see the Giants again on March 26th. So we'll see a lot of a very good San Francisco team who's got an exceptional pitching staff. They wonder if they can score some runs. They might be able to do that. Great management there. Brian Sabean and the man in the dugout, Bruce Bochy, who for a long time was one of the best, if not the best, underrated managers around. But 3 World Series championships will take that underrated tag and flush it away.
Here's Yoan Moncada. There's a bullet base hit into right field. Short and quick.
Not only does he have a very good stroke and powerful from both sides of the plate, but he can run like the wind. So you very rarely will see a guy that's in the neighborhood of 6'1" or so, probably 210 pounds, maybe 215 depending, and he's capable of stealing 60 bases.
His shoulder, he got some shoulders on him. He is wide.
He is a really strong man.
Here's Danny Hayes. Danny 0 for 3. He's hit it hard one time, but he's had some good swings up there today. Danny last year at Charlotte, limited duty, hit 250, 10 homers, and drove in 42. He's had an impressive spring so far. There he goes.
Defensive indifference.
They're going to give it to you, take it.
Yep.
Hayes with a 376 on base percentage in the minor leagues. Courtesy of Chris Kamka. Nice little snap right there. Also want to thank Bo Jackson, Brooks Boyer, and Rick Hahn for coming up and joining us today.
Yeah, it was nice to have them in the booth, talk a little bit about baseball. The results of spring training games don't mean much, but listening to some baseball knowledge out of few people that understand, know the game, and certainly can evaluate the game, that's invaluable.
Here's Liuri. lot of talent right there. Switch hitter, can run, can throw. And getting in an age right now where that little window that we talk about so often. For guys who succeed in that window from 26 to 28 usually have a real good career. Guys who don't, no. Checks it up.
Biggest advantage for Leury is you don't find too many guys that can play every position on the infield and every position on the outfield and have the speed to play them all above average. Not to mention a great arm.
Ball hit sharply. Nice pick right there. Good feed. Good play. Moncada scores, and it's a 7-3 ball game.
Good part about that feed was that the throw was crisp, and you want to make a good solid throw to give your pitcher a chance to catch the ball and then right his footwork. If you lob it over there or give him one of those underhand tosses that stays in the air for a while, it wouldn't have given Williams a chance to right his footwork. As it was, good solid throw right there, and you touch the outside part of the bag with the right foot, you're going to wind up in good shape.
Well, if they give him a good quick feed like he did,
yep,
it takes the possibility of a foot injury almost totally out of play.
Yeah, you can get run over. You can wind up with an Achilles tendon problem.
Liriano with a 1-1 count. 7-7 and 1 for them. 3-10 and 1 for us. There's the strike.
When we next convene on April 3rd, I'd like to see it dressed the same way, if you would. I think it's going to be beautiful weather in Chicago.
I think that Moe's surgery that you had today is he went a little too deep.
Affecting my cranium. Well, it might be a little chilly, but you know, it's been a great winter weather-wise in Chicago. Although the last week or so they've made up for it.
Well, anytime you got to have 5 blood vessels in your head retied.
Retied?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's not good.
No.
2 out, 2 balls, 2 strikes. It's full. Ricky Delmonico, he homered last inning. And this ball game is over, so the Cubs won it by a score of 7-3. But you know, Steve, it was good to see. We had a chance to see Kopech out there, Birdie. You know, we had a chance to see some really potential stars.
Well, there's no doubt that these guys all have the arms to make it. Everybody acquired has a substantial arm. This is a team that is going to get better. They're trying to get through spring training like all teams right now. Make sure they avoid injuries. More times than not they have. Thank you very much for coming down, doing a game, and travel safely going home. My best to the family.
Also, Derek Collins threw the ball well. The base on balls just got him in problems. So, for my partner Steve Stone, for our Hall of Fame director Jim Angio, for our producer, our doll Michelle Godwin, also for our associate producer Chris Campbell, technical manager Mark Harper, also for Bill Brophy, and the executive producer Jim Cornell Jr. This is the Hawk. So long, everybody. You've been watching White Sox baseball on CSN Chicago.